Hey guys, it's Jedi Lex, and welcome to the 26th episode of Beyond Tatooine, where I bring on different collectors to talk about how their love of Star Wars originated, as well as take a look at and chat about their collections. And on today's episode, I have Victoria from Victoria's Cantina. So, how are you doing today?
Lex, I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. So, for people who may not know or be following you, can you tell us a little bit about your channel and what you focus on?
Absolutely. So I started Victoria's Cantina in 2013. It's a YouTube channel that focuses primarily on Star Wars. There's a little bit of Jurassic Park, there's a little bit of Marvel, a little DC, but 99% of it is Star Wars. And that's primarily action figures of all types, Star Wars collectibles. So in 2013, I started it to showcase the little figures and stuff that were part of my collection. Because at that point, I'd been collecting like seriously since 1996. And I had quite a few. And I was like, okay, there's a few people on YouTube talking about action figures. So I'm going to do that too. It's come a long way since then. Now there are thousands of people on YouTube talking about collectibles and toys and all range of Star Wars topics. And things have changed. So 2016, I introduced the Cantina Chatter podcast. And the Cantina Chatter podcast is it's kind of an extension of the channel. It talks about toys. It talks about different aspects of collecting. But it's kind of on hiatus right now. The main show I'm doing right now is the Vintage Collection podcast, which focuses primarily on Star Wars, the Vintage Collection. I think more than anything else, I'm known as a vintage collection, like collector, supporter, and all that stuff. But I also do, hot toys. I do lightsabers. I have, like I mentioned, there's a bunch of stuff in my collection room. There's Batman, there's Ninja Turtles, there's Power Rangers, there's Ghostbusters, there's everything that is, especially things that I've had since I was a kid. Like if I loved it when I was a kid, I still love it now. It doesn't matter what it is. Right around the time the pandemic started, I began Cantina Social Hour, which is a live stream I do every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And occasionally I have an extension of it on Saturdays, just depending on what's going on. How many things there are to talk about? Is there something important, like a HasLab, like what's going on right now? And I focus a lot on that. That's my favorite thing to do, is the live streaming, honestly, because I have different guests every time, and we talk about all kinds of fun stuff. I also started a petition in 2021. It's called Time for Tonica, right here, Time for Tonica. And this was kind of for the vintage collection for Hasbro to make the Tonica sisters. And I've pestered them about it at conventions for years, and annoyingly so. And, finally, that's a real possibility with the new HasLab for the vintage collection. So, a lot of sites came together, and we really pushed that at that time. And the actress herself came out of the woodwork and said, "Hey, let's do this." I also used to do a podcast called Collect Jurassic World. It was about Jurassic Park collecting. I was a co-host on that. I've written for websites like Toy News International, like Star Wars, like Jedi Insider, like Rebel Scum, like Bantha Skull, for a variety of different places. And I've done like mini documentaries at events. I go to conventions like Star Wars Celebration, Comic-Con, and I do coverage primarily around like the toy companies, that are there. So I do maintain relationships with some of the companies. But yeah, it's always a blast. I'm still here doing it after 11 years. So I've gotten to do a lot of awesome things and meet a lot of incredible people and do fun things like be on your show. So, thank you again for having me.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. Your channel is definitely very inspiring. You do a lot of things. You cover many different areas of like collecting, especially even outside of Star Wars. So it's really cool to see all the people that you have on, all the stuff that you guys chat about, all your different guests. So it is a pleasure to actually have you on my channel. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And then, so I guess maybe we could just briefly get your opinion on the HasLab, the Cantina, because I know that's a big deal, especially with the sisters possibly coming. So, are you a big fan of it, or what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. This project, this HasLab, is the one that I've been waiting for since when they said in 2018. There's this new thing called HasLab, starting with the Sail of Barge. This is the one thing I've been waiting for. We got the Razor Crest, we're getting the Ghost, and now it's the Cantina. And, like, ever since I was a kid, I've always been so taken with that scene in that original film where, our heroes go into this spaceport and there's all these crazy looking aliens and people doing all these wild things, getting into bar fights and wild stuff. And as a kid, that really captures your imagination. And, you watch that original film, that was the first Star Wars film I saw when I was a kid. And you're introduced to these human characters. There's Darth Vader, there's stormtroopers, there's Tusken Raiders, there's Jawas, but they all kind of look the same. The Tusken Raiders have helmets. Then you go into this cantina and you see, oh wow, the Star Wars universe is really much more expansive. And that really captured my imagination. I've been trying to build this cantina diorama to some extent ever since like the early 2000s. And now Hasbro is offering an official way for us to be able to do that. I think this scene is even if you don't know Star Wars, you've seen this scene, somehow or another. You're aware of it. You're aware of that Figure and Dan in the Mobile Nodes' Cantina jam, right? So it's a dream project. It really is, and it's going to give us something that I've been wanting for a long time, and not just me, longtime collectors that have been collecting for decades. I think this is kind of like feels like a love letter, like if it actually happens. And these are going to be some of the rarest figures. If we only get 8,000 backers, which is the minimum, these are going to be some of the rarest figures ever made. They're going to be very, very, very valuable and very rare. So it's very exciting. Things are moving along, and I'm really, crossing my fingers. I'd love to see all those tiers get unlocked. I don't know, but things are looking pretty good at the moment to at least get to 8,000. So I'm very excited for it.
Okay, yeah, that's very exciting. So do you have the other HasLab projects, like the Razor Crest and the Sail Barge and well, I don't know if the Ghost has, like, come out yet, but I know that's, like, in the works, I believe. Do you have
I
those
do.
yet?
I have if you were to see this shelf right here at the very top, the sail barge and then the Razor Crest, and then you see like the Jabba's palace thing right there. Right below that is the cantina right here. It's just a little thing. And I kind of just I crammed all the figures in there, and I cut up the Hasbro cardboard diorama they did back in 1999. So it's what they're offering through this HasLab is way more permanent than that. So it's
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. It looks amazing. It looks absolutely massive though, so I can only imagine how, like, big the full scale is. Because I believe there's, like, pieces that you can add to really expand the Cantina's, like,
Hmm.
set as well, so it looks,
Totally.
pretty extensive, so that's very cool. Awesome. So I guess I'll start with my first question is what kind of really made you fall in love with Star Wars, or what was your introduction to it that really kind of was like, "Yep, I'm a Star Wars fan now?"
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact moment I saw Star Wars the first time. I think my mother introduced me to it. I'm pretty sure because my mom's a big movie person, especially with like classic film, which is another thing I love. Um, but it was probably her that got me to see the first one, and then Empire and Jedi, and it was just fun. It was different, and back then, we're talking like late 80s, early 90s. Um, there was a lot of fun, like, movies, Saturday morning cartoons, toys. Like, it was just a great time to be a kid. And, Star Wars came back hugely in 1995 when George Lucas re-released the films remastered on in THX, on VHS, back at the time. And that's the same time that Hasbro revitalized the action figures. So they had been dormant for 10 years. There was nothing for 10 years. It was just nothing. So they brought back the action figures, as soon as 1996 comes along. I'm sorry, I had been seeing them on the shelves and seeing them on the shelves. I was like, Mom, I want to start collecting these. So my mom helped me start collecting them. And my grandma was helping out too. And but yeah, it would have been around then that I got into Star Wars, just kind of seeing those early films before like the prequels, before anything else that came later.
Okay, gotcha. So the original trilogy, kind of the first few movies that you saw, are you more of a fan of the original trilogy? Like, are one of those 3 your favorite movies, or are you more of, like, a prequel, sequel fan?
It's complicated because I wasn't around for the originals. Like, I wasn't born yet when they were out, but I was familiar with them and I'd seen them on
Mhm.
VHS. I started collecting before the prequels, but my first new Star Wars films in theaters were the prequels, right? So I feel like technically I'm more prequel generation, um, but I would say that overall I do prefer the original trilogy just by a little bit because and that's I love all Star Wars, honestly. I love the prequels, but
Mhm.
it's just by a little bit I would say I prefer the OT just a little bit.
Okay. Is there any movie, like, in particular out of those 3 that you is, like, most stand out to you?
I mean, it's hard. I always
Yeah.
struggle with this question because I feel like Empire is just the best Star Wars movie, but it's not necessarily my favorite. I would say Return of the Jedi is probably my overall favorite.
Okay, no, that's a great movie. I got to see Return of the Jedi, in theaters last year for May
Mhm.
4th, and it was, like it was different because 'cause I've only watched it on the VHS when I was little, and then I watched it, on Disney Plus and stuff like that, but actually getting to see it on the big screen. I've always liked the original trilogy, but I feel like that really kind of ignited my, like, a greater appreciation for it because it was cool to kind of actually see it in theaters and have that experience that a lot of people had when they got to see it for the first time in theaters.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty awesome. And then I guess, so favorite movie, what would be your favorite show then?
The Clone Wars is my favorite overall show.
Okay. Do you have a favorite arc within the Clone Wars? I know there's, like, a ton of them.
Um, I mean, I love like the later Ahsoka stuff with her leaving the Order and then eventually returning. Like, I love that's probably my favorite overall.
Okay. Yeah, that was, very powerful because I really, like, love the Clone Wars for Ahsoka, and then kind of seeing that and them not backing her and then her leaving and Anakin trying to convince her to stay, I was like, "Wow, like, this is intense stuff," like, probably the most intense stuff I've seen in the Clone Wars, so
Mhm.
definitely a big fan of the Clone Wars. I do like Rebels as well. What are your thoughts on Acolyte? I know that's a big topic.
Yeah. There's things that I genuinely love about it. I love that we're exploring an era that's never been seen, on film. It's the earliest live action we've ever seen for Star Wars, and that's amazing. Um, the characters I think are great fun. Master Slow, I think he's awesome. And we're seeing all these characters as stories unfold, right? It's kind of like you're reading a book, right? You've read the first, 4 chapters, and there's still a few more chapters to go. So it's kind of hard to, they say don't judge a book by its cover. You can't judge a book by just, reading half the book. So, there's things about the story that I've really enjoyed so far. I really like that we're seeing the Jedi kind of at a different period. And we're also seeing what may be the Sith or some element of the dark side, kind of playing a part there, which is kind of like the root of what Star Wars is, good versus evil. And to me, that's captivating. There's certain things in the show that maybe are, I have questions about, but I'm willing to stick with it and wait it out and see how things play out till the end, as all people should be doing, really, till we can judge something fully, get the full story.
Yep, I 100% agree with you, and it's very refreshing to hear a positive take on it because I feel like there are very few of them. I'm enjoying The Acolyte for the same reasons, kind of. I think it's great to see, a new time period that we haven't explored. We're getting to see Jedis with lightsabers. I think the end of episode 4, that's probably the first time we've seen that many lightsabers in a very long time, like since the Battle of Geonosis. So,
Yeah, I
and
was
I
just
do
thinking that.
like yeah, and I do really like the characters. I feel like, yes, they all have their ups and downs and pluses and minuses. I really like Soul, but I just feel like there's a lot of negativity around it, and I'm getting a lot of hate for it, or for at least enjoying it. So it's nice to hear that someone else is enjoying it that is a Star Wars fan as well. So I appreciate that.
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around, unfortunately, and it's a lot of the time it's the same folks. So maybe they need to look inward and decide, hey, what's really the problem here.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess my last question before we take a look at your collection is who is your favorite character?
Anakin.
Okay. That is my favorite character as well. Just Anakin, or is Anakin and Vader kind of lumped together for you?
Yeah, both of them. Anakin, Vader.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, cool. And then you have a video of your collection if you wanna pull that up, and then we can take a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kinda walk me through it. I already see a lot of it behind you, and it looks awesome.
Yes, it is definitely it's definitely a living thing, I always like to say. So I'll just play like the introduction here,
Yeah.
where it kind of just gives like I think it gives like an overview before it gets into the specifics. It is an hour and a half long. I did publish this on YouTube. It's the longest video I've ever made, and I'll never make another video this long because it was just so time. It took me years to finish it, just because when you're doing a collection video, you put something on display and then, you need to change it because now there's more figures to add or there's something else you want to put on display. So it's like a living thing.
Yep.
But basically, this is kind of the intro here. I'll turn off the sound just so we can see. But yeah, so I have the vintage collection kind of all over, kind of circling the room, most of the room. This is on top of my detofs where I have my Hot Toys, but on top I have, like Toy Story, like the actual like ones from the film, not the actual ones from the film, obviously, but based on that. I have a bunch of Star Wars 3 3/4, a little bit of Black Series on display.
Nice.
And there's the sail barge, there's a Razor Crest. This is the shelf that's behind me. More Star Wars 3 3/4 inch, a little bit of retro collection. And like I love like anything like Clone Wars prequels, like as far as like action figures go, because I can display all the clones and the Jedi and stuff. These are some of my droids. This is the Jurassic Park section right here.
Awesome.
I've been collecting Jurassic since 1993. Those ones on the top are the same ones I had back then. I still have them to this day. And then these are some of the newer Mattel items that have been released in more recent years. Have some miscellaneous stuff, some Batman. There's the G.I. Joe Sky Striker. Just kind of a mix of things. And yeah, this part of the video kind of goes back into like talking about like TVC. Ian McDiarmid signed that for me at Celebration. Yeah, so I mean, the vintage collection I would say is probably like the biggest thing I focus on. Even though I collect other things, it's the only thing where I'll buy two. I'll buy one to keep open and one to keep packaged for the figures at least.
Gotcha. Okay. So are the ones that are kind of like hung up in the protective case, you have a duplicate of that you have out, not carded?
Yep, absolutely.
And do you collect certain TVC figures, like just based off preference, or do you kind of just collect them as you can find them?
I collect them all. So usually I'll just pre-order the full cases from Entertainment Earth, and then I'll get those in, and then I'm done. Because oftentimes it'll have two of each. Not always. Sometimes I have to go back and buy like singles of certain ones. But yeah, I'm also a big Marilyn Monroe fan. I love her films, and so I have few items, a couple statues, and just some miscellaneous like memorabilia. Yeah, so Japanese Vader and Boba Fett from Tamashii Nations. Sure fun. I have another one. I think I have a Darth Maul somewhere. But yeah, like the Toy Story isn't like one of my like hardcore things, but I love that Mattel used to make the actual like replicas from the film, as if if they existed in real life, this is what they would look like, this is what they would do, this is what they would be. So I bought all of those, and they're just a lot of fun. You look at that shelf, and more than any shelf, like that just makes me smile the most because it's just fun. It's cute.
I think I had those, 2 potato heads when I was younger, and you can, like, change out the features on them, right? Yeah,
Yep.
me and my sister had those, and we'd play with them all the time, like, we'd give them different, like, looks and stuff, and it was definitely fun, and I really enjoyed the Forky character. I thought that was, like, a cool guy
Yeah.
in the, later films.
And that's Teacher Barbie. I'm a teacher, so
Oh,
I had to
nice.
get that. It's a replica of a 1965 doll they used to make.
Oh, you got some pops.
I have a few. I don't do too many of those, but like odds and ends, I do. I do have.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite TVC figure?
I could probably
Like, yeah.
narrow it down to a top 10, but no, not off the top of my head because there's just so many. There's hundreds of them.
Okay. And so you mentioned you got that signature at Celebration. Are you going to Japan?
I wish I was. It's at a weird time because I am a teacher, and that part of the school year, I have summer off, right? I'm off right now, but
Mhm.
I don't have whenever it is late April, early May. And that's also testing season in most places. So
Yep.
it's kind of a really hard time to take time off. But I love Japan. I've been there twice, and I'd love to go back for Celebration. It's just not at a great time.
Yeah, it's definitely at a, odd period because I'm in school too, so I kind of get I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to swing this," but it's just, like it's towards the end of this like, the semester, but it's at, like, a very odd time, so
Yeah,
I
it
totally
is.
get it. Oh, you got some of
Yeah.
the Rebels figures.
Hmm. Yeah, this is 3 3/4 inch stuff, and this was I published this back in January, so it has changed a little bit. But by and large, it is the same. These are some of my Hot Toys here. Mostly with Hot Toys, mostly I collect Star Wars. Like 90% of it is Star Wars. I do have a few odds and ends from like Marvel or DC, but primarily it's going to be Star Wars.
Okay. Do you prefer, like, the Hot Toy size to, like, the, Premier statue size from, like, Sideshow?
Statues, I think, are like the bigger ones, right? Like quarter
Yeah, like
scale.
the massive ones.
Yeah, no, I would only have room to display like 3 of them, so there's
Yeah.
I smaller is generally better, like, I that's why I love TVC because it's the world building, it's the ability to put dioramas together and stuff like that, but you just can't deny Hot Toys either, they're just so great, so I've gotten hooked into those, in recent years.
Yeah, the Hot Toys are, like they surprised me. I saw a few pe when I first, like, got into collecting and stuff and really kind of, like, expanding, what else is really out there, I came across Hot Toys and I was, like, kind of really astonished by how detailed they are, like, their eyes and stuff, like, in the facial expressions, it's, like, actually crazy. So, I do like them. I like the Toto too.
Yeah.
Did he
Yeah, they
come with
did.
the Cad Bane?
He came with Cad Bane with the deluxe version.
Gotcha.
He wasn't in the show, Book of Boba Fett, obviously, but they still thought, "Hey, let's put him in this set," which I think is great.
Yeah. It's a nice little add-on, a little deluxe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I collect all range of these Hot Toys, like, I have from the prequels, Clone Wars, sequel trilogy, like, you know I don't collect them all because this is a line I would never be able to collect them all in with because
Yeah.
it's too, it's just very expensive to do that, but, I try to pick and choose, and ultimately, I like more than I dislike, so I do have a fair number of them.
Yeah, that's the thing that I like with, like, TVC and Funko and, like, Black Series is they're not all cheap, but they're definitely cheaper than, the Hot Toys and some of the bigger, like, statues and the replicas and stuff. So,
Yeah,
it's kind of, where I'm at, I guess, in my collecting phase.
mhm, totally. Yeah, the Yoda's one of my favorites. This Princess Leia was my first Hot Toys. I got her
Oh,
from my husband for Christmas in 2016, which was like right before Carrie Fisher passed away.
uh,
Um, so she's like a really important one. And I did meet Carrie Fisher one time, like just by chance. So this was it's a very special one for me.
yeah, I can only imagine. Wow. By chance? That's actually really cool.
Yeah, it was at Star Wars Celebration 4 in 2007 in Los Angeles. And I was in the cafeteria getting a snack, and she was in line right next to me getting a snack as well. So it was pretty cool.
Wow. That's awesome. That must have meant a lot too. I can only imagine that getting that hot toy too after she passed would have been, like, extremely difficult, so I can understand why that's, like, a pretty significant piece to you.
Yeah. Yeah, but these are fun. I'll skip through it a little bit because it is quite long. But yeah, that's a life size Grogu they did, which is a fun one too. He has different ears and stuff you can put on him. This kind of a more miscellaneous, like this doesn't fit on any of the other displays. I'm gonna throw them all together right here, kind of thing. But yeah, this is one of my favorites too. Director Krennic, like they just executed him like perfectly. Like he looks great. Um, but yeah, there's a few they just really like nail. Like they just really get them dialed in. Some Mando figures. Um, I have all the Kylo Rens because I did make it a point to make sure I got all of them, and they're all nice. They're all lots of fun. I have all the Rays as well.
Gotcha. So do all the Hot Toys come with stands?
Yes. Some of them come with like environmental bases and they're more kind of like with Yoda, if you notice he has like
Mhm.
some rocks that he stands on. And then some of them like Darth Maul come with a really big base and I just can't display them with that big base because it takes up too much room, but yeah, they all come with something to stand them on.
Okay. Cool. Do they stand alone without a base, or do you, like, almost
They
have to
do.
have Okay.
Yeah, they will, but I like to have the base, just a little more security. I live in Southern California, so,
Yeah.
occasionally we get little earthquakes and stuff. I don't want anything falling, especially hot toys.
Yep, I can understand that. Those little porgs were very cute.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are the hot toys, essentially. That's the older Anakin. There's some new ones coming up. That is the older ones. But yeah, then it kind of goes into my like 3 3/4 inch stuff. I have everything 3 3/4. I mean, Empire, plenty of that. Um, and it's fun, but it's not like my favorite like aspect. Like, I already mentioned the Cantina is my favorite. Anything with like weird aliens and stuff are my favorite
Mhm.
figures. Um, but I also love like anything like Clone Wars or like Jedi and Sith. Like, so that's kind of what this little display is. It's more like, Clone Wars oriented.
And I noticed on the initial, like, kind of look around, you have a lot of, like, vehicles. Are you, like, big into, a certain type of vehicle, or you kind of just like the creativity of different vehicles?
Yeah, anything Star Wars, like from Hasbro, Star Wars vehicles,
Mhm.
I want it, I buy it. Um, but yeah, I do have favorites. I do like anything, any of the clones as vehicles, like the Turbo Tank or the AT TE, or all of those are what I like. Or the Jedi Starfighters are a lot of fun too. But like the prequel stuff, because they just made so many prequel things back in 15 years ago, and the golden age I call it, like roughly 2006 to about 2011, and they just like cranked out hundreds of figures a year, vehicles, and the gunship is probably my favorite overall vehicle out of everything Star Wars that I have, because it just I got the original one back in 2003, and that one right there, and I just fell in love with it. It's amazing. It's just an amazing vehicle. So I have all the gunships, all the different ones they ever made. There's quite a few of them.
Yeah, I noticed some of them and I was like, "Oh, man, she's got the gunships," 'cause those are I don't have too many, like, TVC figures or really vehicles, but I love gunships and, like, the different paints on them and stuff, so I do wanna eventually find the gunships, but I feel like they're, few and far between, especially in, like, a good condition and price range.
Yeah, and the prequels really are more like when you talk about world building, like those films really world built. As much as I love the original trilogy,
Mhm.
you know that there's the Empire and there's the Rebels, and then there's a few like aliens and stuff in between, right? But you never really see that quite as much as you see in the prequels, where like there's all these planets. Some of them are like pretty exotic, and there's different. You see like the governments of different planets, and then you get into the Clone Wars, and that takes it like times 10, right?
Yep.
So that's one of the things that's great about the prequels is it lends itself to like toys and world building so well.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh, wow, you got some Knights of the Old Republic and Nihilus.
Yeah, these are Black Series, so these are the 6 inch. And I'm not a huge Black Series collector. I used to buy them all like when it started back in 2013. But it was just too much, so I stopped doing that. But yeah, so I display my favorites overall, or whatever is current. If there's something like where with Ahsoka, like, oh yeah, I love that, so I'm gonna buy all of them. I'll put those on display because they're kind of like the current like thing.
Gotcha, yeah, and I saw you had some of the Bad Batch characters, and I know that ended, like, a month or so ago. What were your thoughts on the Bad Batch kind of wrapping up the final season, if you watched it?
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it. I I felt like it ended a little bit kind of safe. It wasn't like too. There weren't like any like major deaths at the end. There wasn't like anything traumatizing. It was very safe. I felt like maybe it could have taken a few more risks with certain things, but for the most part, it ended. I was pretty satisfied with the way it ended.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of people thought it ended safe. I thought there was gonna be a lot more casualties than there were. There was definitely not as many as I thought by any means, but it was kinda cool to see an older, Hunter. I wish they would've showed, like, older, or no, it was older Rex, not no, older Hunter. I don't know why I'm getting those mixed up, but Wrecker and, Crosshair, that would've been cool to see them, like, older, but
Yeah, definitely.
oh, wow, the cracked Masked Vader.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, I mean, any crack Mass Vader that was great. Like they've like the Hot Toys, the Vintage Collection, like they've all done a really good job with that.
Such a pivotal moment too, so I get it.
Yeah. I'll kind of skip through just a little bit here because so back to Vintage Collection. The purchase of the droids. I have all the droids. They're all laid out in order. Because I do study the scenes and I look at the photos. I'm like, okay, this droid was standing here. This Jawa was off to the side, like that kind of thing. A little. It's extreme, I know it, but I'm very detail oriented, and I just like to have things like perfect as much as possible. Battle of Hoth. I got to have like key moments on display, right? So that's like a key moment as well. In that film, I feel like I skipped something here.
I didn't realize how big the well, I guess maybe it's prior, but the sail barge. I didn't realize how big that was. The one
It's
that's
huge.
like up top.
Yeah, it's really big. Battle of Endor.
Nice.
So you got to have the Ewoks. Let's see. So I do have a little Return of the Jedi like moment towards the end of the film. And most of these are like newer figures, like the Vader's new, the Emperor's new. Some of them are older. You just kind of got to use what you have, right? Like they don't update everything all the time. Like those Imperial dignitaries in the back are from like 2004, I believe, or 2003. But they've never updated them, right? And they might never. So you just got to use what you have.
Gotcha.
I got a little bit of Book of Boba Fett. So that's a bantha that I had for years. I'm like, this will be perfect. We'll just throw it in there.
Yep.
Yeah, some of those guys. Let's see what else. I got the Lars Homestead, which I used to have it like a New Hope base, but now I have it Attack of the Clones. So I got Owen and Baru and just kind of Anakin and Padme, 3PO. A bit of a moment from A New Hope. All the rebels getting blasted, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's a very iconic scene. I think it's really cool how you kind of like display and kind of make the scenes. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I got some Ahsoka in front of that. Just kind of because there's not too many. There's a few now, but like when I filmed this, there weren't that many Ahsoka figures. But I just try to put them all in their own little like featured like spot. We got the N1. That's a more recent release. Mando's in there, and then Grogu's like knocking on the glass.
That is so cute. I love that.
We've got Navarro. So here's the Navarro Cantina getting blasted away. And I kind of just, yeah, I have dead people in my dioramas. So.
Listen, it adds a level to it, and that's really cool. Grogu with the Force. Wow. I didn't even know they had some of these, like vintage figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even the droid didn't survive, unfortunately, which is almost more sad than the storm. Well, it is more sad than the stormtroopers, right? But, yeah, and then let's see what else we got over. Just some troopers kind of gathering there in the back. Moff Gideon up front, and then there's a Revenge of the Sith. So I have the AT-AP, and then it's got the Kashyyyk troopers in there. A couple Jedi, Wookiees. It's very long, so I'm just trying to kind of somewhat rush through them a little bit. That's a fun vehicle because this one right here, it's got all those missiles and they all launch.
Oh,
so
wow.
When I first got it, and this is a thing I have with my mom, like since I was a kid, I would show her the new vehicles that would launch missiles, and I'd be like, bam, and just launch them at her. So I remember showing her this one, and I was older by then. I was probably like, I don't know exactly, but when this came out, I was definitely probably about an adult, and I was showing it to her, and I was like, "Oh, and it also does this," and I launched all 20 of them at her at once, or however many are in here, 24. But yeah, it's a
Wow,
fun vehicle.
that's cool. Good story too.
Right here, we got some Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It's a big battle.
Oh, there's that other gunship too. That's the cool one.
Yeah, those are fun. Let's see, we got the Naboo Starfighter up top, right there. And then this is one of my favorite displays is the Clone Wars Micro Series ARC Troopers getting ready to go hunt Grievous.
Wow, I didn't even know they had. Is that like the same ARC Trooper or are they different? Like the blue ones, are they all different or like the same, just posed differently?
Yeah, they're the same. There's a couple like odds and ends in there, like the one with the four, I don't know what that gun's called, but that big gun, that one's a little different, and the pilots are different inside the gunship.
Gotcha. Wow, I didn't even know they had like all those variations of the ARC Trooper. That's so cool.
Yeah, there's probably dozens of them from over the last 20 years. Um, Another vehicle, B-Wing, with some Rebels, and then some Rise of Skywalker in the very back. Because there weren't that many of those figures either, but I kind of just put them back there, and they're still there. I don't know. I hope it gets like a little more like final for them one day, but I doubt it. Rebel pilots. And then one of my other favorite things is Star Tours. So I have the Star Speeder 1000, and then some of the Star Tours figures that they used to sell at the park about a
That is
decade ago.
that is awesome. Did you I know they maybe it was like in I don't know if it was like just California or but they did like the updated Star Tours with like Mando and Ahsoka. Were you able to like go and see the updated version of it?
Yeah, I was actually just at Disneyland yesterday.
Oh wow.
And
Awesome.
yeah, I got to go on there, and yeah, it has Cassian Andor, and then it has like the whole Ahsoka moment with the Purrgil, which was really cool.
That's sick. That's cool. Yeah, I haven't I'm in Florida, so I haven't like gone to go see if they updated the Florida one, but I love Star Tours. I really like anything Star Wars when it comes to like the parks, like Galaxy's Edge and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
It's always great fun to like feel like you're
Totally.
in Star Wars.
Yeah, especially for me because I'm a big Disney like fan as well, like Disneyland especially. I have another podcast called Discoveryland, and that talks about the history of Disneyland and how it
Oh,
was built and different things that aren't there anymore. Um, so like having Star Wars as part of that is always fun. This is a really big one. This is the AT-AT, the AT-AT, and it's about 2.5 feet tall.
wow.
And yeah, it's great. It's got electronics. It doesn't walk, but it has electronics, and you can pose it and stuff. So this is the indoor version. So he's got like some dirt on its feet. But it's great. It opens up. You can put your figures in there and everything.
Oh, wow. Does it come all put together like that? Like the bigger like vehicles, or do you have to like kind of put them together?
No, this one I had to assemble.
Gotcha.
These are some of my SH Figure Arts figures. Those are imports that are made in they're based in Japan. But and then like Mayfax and a couple figure arts in here as well.
Okay.
They're 6-inch like Black Series, but they were like before Black Series got really good a few years ago. Like everybody was like, "Oh, these are the best ones," but now they're pretty much like on par, I would say, for the most part. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
um, and then from there it jumps over to the other shelf. So I'll just kind of move it over here to the sail barge, which is definitely a centerpiece that I have in the collection.
Mhm.
And all the panels open up. So I used to have them all off with all the aliens and stuff inside. But then when they released the Jabba's Palace throne room last year, I moved them all to that, and then I put the panels back over it. So
Gotcha.
yeah, but it is a great piece. It's very detailed. It's very it's very impressive. It's a really nice piece. And it's It's fun, it's classic, and it's another thing that people were asking for ages and that they finally made through HasLab.
Yep. Yeah, the piece is absolutely insane. Did it like
This
come with certain like the figures that are displayed on it? Did it come with those? I don't remember which like figures the sail barge came with.
No, it didn't come with any. What did it come? It came with Yak Face. Yeah, just Yak Face, and he had a special packaging with a coin, and I didn't open that one. I put him on the wall. Um, but yeah, you these are just figures. They sold a few around that era, like to support it, but a lot of them you had to like go back and buy. But I had them because I have been collecting for so long. Luckily, I know it's not the case for everybody, but for me, I did have these figures. Same like with the Cantina. When that comes out, I'll have everything to just throw in it.
That'll be cool.
I didn't have anywhere else to put Luke, his land speeder, so he just ended up right there underneath
Yeah,
the sail barge. Rancor's another cool one.
that is massive too. Wow.
He's about to eat that poor Gamorrean guard. As happens in the movie. I'm not doing things to
Yeah.
be mean. That's what happens. He also ate Ula, right? But I can't put Ula in his hand because that's just mean. Um, Here's the Razor Crest display. It is different now. I have changed it up quite a bit, but the sail bar or the Razor Crest is still there. Some of these figures are still there. And it's a great vehicle too. I love how you can take all the panels off and everything. That's like the Jawas are doing. They're scurrying off with a piece of the Razor Crest.
Yeah. Their pieces are so impressive. Like they're so massive, but they're so like detailed. I think they're really cool. I wanted the ghost like really bad because I love Rebels, but I was like, it's absolutely massive. I have no idea where I would put that. And like I don't want to
Yeah,
just leave it in a box.
it's tough. Like the Razor Crest, you can't tell here, but actually one of the engines is off. Like it's not connected because of space, right? And
Yep.
I know some people with the Ghost are going to do the same thing too, like take off a wing and just kind of put it on the shelf like that. But and I may have to do that too because it's huge. But
Yep.
another one that's not on display is the big Millennium Falcon. I do have it. I have the Galaxy's Edge version.
Very cool.
Um, but what I need to do, what some people do, is they'll get either a guitar stand to have it like vertically, or they'll get a bicycle stand and mount that on the wall. So I need to do one of those two at some point. I just haven't. I need to make the space to do that.
Gotcha. Yep. Space is a collector's worst enemy, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Um, yeah, so that's basically the Razor Crest there. I had it like overloaded, and I just kind of condensed it a little bit, put some of the newer stuff in there. Let's see, got a little bit of an Andor moment. So the droid BT1 that was released through Disney. Hasbro did not make that droid, unfortunately, but Disney did because Disney does some stuff with droids.
Mhm.
So I put him in there. There's a little bit of Rogue One. And then this is it. This is what I have of the Cantina right now. So it's all the figures, but they're all like crammed into this little space.
Yeah.
These bar sections were released in the early 2000s. They would sell like a figure with a piece of the bar, and then you'd buy like several, and you'd put the bar together. But yeah, a lot of them are outdated. They need to be redone because some of them date back to the 90s, but some of them still hold up. So they don't need to redo all of them, just some of them.
Are they likely to kind of redo some of them? Or is it kind of just like few and far between and how they pick?
Yeah, I think if this HasLab succeeds, that'll send a message that people are interested in the Cantina, collectors want more of that, and I think they will do more with it.
Gotcha. Okay.
Lisa Serlin, she was played by Pam Rose, who I've interviewed on Cantina Chatter podcast, and also the guy next to her that looks like Bosk. His name is Calfast, and he was. I've also interviewed the actor for him, Laurie Good. He portrayed him, a stormtrooper and a rebel, a Vanguard trooper at the end of A New Hope.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And the band is fun. You got to have the band. These just came out like within the last year or so. They had all the instruments and everything. So
Yep, the band is essential.
yeah,
Is there like a stage? I don't even know if I looked like a stage within the cantina for the HasLab.
there's not, but there actually wasn't one in the movie either. Um, They filmed that shot with them inside a little alcove, that the same alcove they used for all the other aliens, like in the close-up shots. So there wasn't a stage; they were just like placed in an alcove. Yeah, but they did some really great stuff with some of these aliens back in the day. Like some of them still hold up. They're just fun. I mean, what's more fun than a bunch of crazy looking aliens like hanging out, getting drunk,
Yep.
getting into fights, listening to music? Like to me, it doesn't get any better than that.
And it's cool how like they came up with the concepts for some of these because like I don't even think I could come up with something like that. Like they're just so creative and they're all so different from one another. It's like actually really cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's a blast. Um, More Mandalorian right there with that tank, and then we get into Jabba's palace, which that place that was released. It came out last year as Boba Fett's throne room, but they made it so you could use it with Jabba the Hutt as well, which is great. And so I had to do it with Jabba because I have all those aliens and stuff. The band, like they're all there. So
Oh, look at the Max Rebo. Wow, I love that. That is so cool. I didn't realize there were so many vintage collection figures like out there. I had no
yeah, and
idea.
a lot of these aren't vintage collection. They are
No.
Hasbro Star Wars, but before the vintage collection.
So the pre-vintage collection.
Yes. But yeah, just I like after the cantina, like Jabba's palace, like because it's more aliens like just hanging out and stuff. So, and they did some really good ones over the years, like some really really cool ones.
Do they have like in the pipeline like what the next HasLab is going to be, or is that like you get like one at a time and it's few and far between with
Yeah,
what?
I mean, there's rumors and stuff, but it is like one at a time.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, no, this is fun, and this I don't know if it's still available, but if anybody wants this playset, like you don't get all the figures, right? You got a couple, but it went like to discount on Hasbro Pulse's site. I don't know if they still have it, but I bought a second one so I can get like another Bib Fortuna and some of the miscellaneous parts that you can use in different displays. Um, but yeah, like that guy in the back, Hermie Odal, is a huge figure, really really big. And they also did Effant Mon, which is he's going to come up here in just a second. He's going to be on the far left. Um, he is the biggest figure Hasbro has ever made. That's him right there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he came out back in 2002, and the box on him is insane. Like you have the card, and it's just like this giant bubble in front. Like I don't know how they did that. They would never do that today.
No,
We
probably
got the skiff here with Luke, and they're all positioned exactly as they are in the film. Like they're all standing in the right spot. And we got some of these recently. Hasbro finally gave fans some of the ones that they'd really been asking for, some of these skiff guards to complete this moment. So that was a really cool thing too.
that's awesome. It's a nice skiff too.
Yeah, it's nice TVC. Some of the prototype figures right there. I got the snow speeder right below that. And then these are some of the newer retro collection. I have a few like vintage, but not too many. Yeah, Lando and Lobot and some of his guys, the cloud cars behind them. If somebody made this for me, it's Darth Vader and Carbonite, um, which is really cool. And they sent it to me, so I put it there in the back.
that is
Um,
that is really cool. It looks amazing too. I wonder how
they
they
did a
like
really good
went about
job.
doing that.
Let's see, right here I've got Ahsoka's Jedi Starfighter, which was one that was very hard to get. I waited years to find a deal on eBay, but finally I did, and I bought it. But yeah, there she is with her droid and Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Is that the one of the newer droids that they? I know they did like a recent like 4-pack of like droids. I don't
I
know if
think
that.
this droid is in that set, yes, but this is the original one that they did a while back.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
And then this is the turbo tank, which is one of my favorite vehicles. And I have it all 501st oriented.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, like anything clones, anything Clone Wars, like I just love it as far as like toys go, especially when it's like Jedi and clones, because that's just like awesome.
Yeah, it's the best. I love like how they have their own like distinguished like battalions and the different colors that they have and like who the general is of that battalion. It's like it's awesome. It's a very impressive display. Your whole room is very impressive. But I love the clones. That's like
Thank
actually
you.
very awesome. Master Skywalker.
They've released a few more clones since I did this, so there's more in the display now than there were at the time. Um, yeah, but it's all like I love like the 501st. Thankfully, Hasbro has done a lot with it over the years. Uh, this fighter tank is really nice as well. It's actually got some clones inside it too, like the pilots are in there, the drivers.
Oh wow. That's
And
awesome.
then there's that little drop ship. That was a Hasbro creation. Like that didn't actually exist like in the films or anything. They just made that little drop ship thing. So it's got a clone hanging out in the back, like waiting to be dropped off in battle or something.
That is pretty cool. Very inventive.
Yeah. And then there's Grievous with his starfighter, and then two of his Magna Guards. That one I do have to have a display stand because he doesn't stand at all.
Gotcha.
And all of those figures need to be updated. These are TVC figures, but they're like from 2010, I think, 2011. So they really need to be updated. More Revenge of the Sith here. So
Oh,
Commander
Cody.
Cody.
Wow. And it came with that hologram piece of Sidious?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That duel on Mustafar, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's my dark side Anakin with his red eyes.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah, there's Sidious. That's Addie Galia.
Awesome. Very Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and then Katie Mundi, everybody's favorite Jedi right now.
I was just gonna say that's everyone's favorite at the moment.
Yeah, but Revenge of the Sith is my second favorite Star Wars movie. So like I love representing it like as much as I can.
Oh
Maul
wow,
Insidious.
nice. I love that Sith infiltrator. It's probably like one of my favorite ships.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We got the ATTE, bunch of clone stuff. And then there's a V-Wing, some of the newer ARC troopers that they've made in recent years. It's got one pilot inside it. And then, yeah, all the clones like kind of lined up. So I have some Phase 1 clones right there.
Nice.
And yeah, that vehicle behind him was a really cool one because it's just like a giant gun with legs, and it is in the Clone Wars. So it's fun that they actually made it.
That is cool. Is there any ship that hasn't been made that you're hoping gets made?
Ah, man, the clones, they've covered them really well. I'm sure there's something they haven't made though. I'm not thinking of, but the important stuff they've done, definitely.
I was gonna say it seems like the very well and common known ones are they've made and they look amazing, but I know there's some others that are probably out there that haven't been touched yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
And I think that's all of that display space. I want to say. Oh no, I got that Corporate Alliance tank droid just chilling on the ground because it didn't have anywhere else to go. And there's a couple Jedi starfighters. I don't have them all on display. I don't even have all the vehicles on display. It's just that I don't have anywhere to put everything. And then this video kind of moves from Star Wars onto like the Jurassic stuff. So I'll kind of skip through this a little bit more quickly. But this line is so huge that Mattel has started in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just hard to buy everything. I don't collect all of it. I tried to at first, but it just got way too big very quickly. So I just kind of pick and choose. They have a series. It's kind of like the vintage collection of the Jurassic line. It's called the Hammond Collection. And I do buy those for sure because they're more like collector oriented.
Gotcha.
Um,
Wow.
but yeah, there's a lot of like odds and ends too. It's just a very overwhelming toy line. But underneath there, this is like remakes of the Kenner Ghostbusters they've been doing in more recent years. And that was one of the first lines I collected as a kid, or didn't actively collect, but I had them. So I definitely needed them on the shelf. I never had the Marshmallow Man as a kid, but I fixed that as soon as they re-released him. Um, I really love the Kenner Batman stuff. My dad bought me my very first Batman action figure, and that's the one on the far left holding up the Batarang.
Oh, wow.
And I'm working on a little video about that I have coming up. I've been working on it for a couple of months now, but I grew up in Texas, and that figure, it's here in my house now in California, but I took that figure with me back to Texas, and I made a little video, and I'm kind of working on that with my dad and everything. So it's kind of cool to include him in one of my videos for the first time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but no, those are just that's one of my favorite toy lines ever is that Kenner Batman line, Batman Returns. Um, and then from here, it's these are all more modern, but reissues of the original Ninja Turtle stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And those are fun. Like I love the fancy new ones they make, but nothing beats like the OG stuff.
Yep. Well, it's
Um,
cool too collecting stuff that you had. Like, I mean, it seems like you do have a lot of the stuff that you had when you were younger, but I know a lot of other collectors, like a lot of us, we've gotten rid of the stuff that we had and we always wish we didn't. So we try to go and refine them. So it's cool that you have a lot of the stuff that you
yeah,
had.
totally. What I do have, thankfully, is my 1993 Jurassic Park Kenner stuff. Like, not all of these are all like old, but the T-Rex, the Stegosaurus, Triceratops, those are all ones that I've had since 1993.
Wow.
And I even have the boxes for them still because even though I was like an 8-year-old, I still had
Mhm.
the foresight of like, hey, these boxes are awesome, and I don't want to throw them away. Um, so yeah, I've always been kind of like a very weird, detail oriented like person, but like even as a kid, I was like thinking about these things.
Yeah, I mean, very smart of your younger self.
Yeah, and I barely played with them either. Like the Stegosaurus, that's my original. Like I barely touched them. Like I thought they looked incredible, and I was like, hey, I just need to like I don't want to mess them up. I got to keep them like wherever. But yeah, no, this was a great toy line. Dinosaurs before the Kenner Jurassic Park toy line were very like boring. They were very plain. They're cheesy looking. They had giant like yellow teeth and big white eyes with little pupils drawn in. Like when this toy line came about, it revolutionized like dinosaur toys. What a dinosaur toy could be. And like this Red Rex is the classic, like the thing everybody wanted back during that time. My grandma got him for me for Christmas that year.
Wow. Cool grandma.
Yeah. She doesn't remember. I tried to repay her because you'll see in a bit, but Mattel remade it like a new version of it. And I tried to give it back to her, but she didn't remember giving me the old one. So it was a little anticlimactic, but hey, I remember.
That's all that matters. Do you have a favorite dinosaur?
Stegosaurus.
Yeah, that's a good dinosaur.
And then it kind of moves into more modern things. I think I may have skipped over the part that shows the gate. Yeah, right there. So they did do the gate, they did do the fences, and I have a couple in the boxes above there. One thing I do want to do eventually is complete the very first wave of Kenner Jurassic Park, like in box. Maybe like 3/4 of the way there, but I still need a few more things. But that's kind of a long-term thing because it's just gotten so expensive since the newer movies started coming out. Like that stuff just really shot up like on eBay.
Yep. Yep.
The Command Compound, that was like an awesome place that I didn't have it as a kid. My brother did. Um, but I got it as an adult, and it's amazing.
Do those pieces where it like do they open? Like kind of where it
Hmm.
looks like there's okay.
Yeah, so if you turn the playset around, you could see all the insides of there with the hatchery and all the, there's a console that makes sounds and alerts you about dinosaurs breaking in and fun stuff like that.
That is cool. Well,
Um, yeah, so this is like more modern Jurassic down here. I do have all the vehicles that Mattel's made because those are always fun. Not enough companies make vehicles these days. So I do make it a point to buy all of those vehicles.
those are awesome.
They even did the submarine, which is awesome.
I like that one in the back that's got the I forget what they're called, but the thing in its mouth.
Oh, the Mosasaurus.
Pterodactyl, I think.
Yeah, the Pteranodon. Um, and thankfully Mattel has been making the original Jurassic Park stuff updated for to 2024 expectation. Um, so they've made some awesome things like the Jungle Explorer, like these characters, which were amazing when they finally released them. Like, and that's what it's mostly about for me. I enjoy the newer movies, some more than others, but that original film, those original characters, like those original dinosaurs, that's where it's at for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got the Jeeps too.
They've done quite a bit since they've had the license, which I give Mattel a lot of credit because Jurassic, as far as toys go, was dead before Mattel got the license. Hasbro had it in up to it was Kenner, then which became Hasbro, and they had that license up until like 2016, and then they lost the license, and Mattel got it, and Hasbro wasn't really doing very much with it, but Mattel got it, and they've turned Jurassic. You can ever since 2018, you could go to a store and there's Jurassic toys on the shelf. They've turned it into like an evergreen presence on retail shelves, and I think there's a lot of credit to be given there for them to be able to do that, because very few companies are able to do that. Like Star Wars does that, Marvel, Ninja Turtles, which even Ninja Turtles has had gaps where they haven't been on shelves. Um, Hot Wheels, Barbie, things like that. But Jurassic is now, at that level, which is great.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive to be up there. I haven't even noticed that, but I have noticed, like, with them doing movies and stuff, there has been more, but I didn't realize, like, how big of the presence, like, or really how much that's turned around since the ownership kind of switched.
Yeah, these are mostly like the Hammond collection, like the more collector focused line, and they're not quite the vintage collection level yet, but they're definitely a cut above the standard line. They even did Steven Spielberg last year as a convention exclusive, so that was fun.
That's cool. Oh, look at
Uh,
the baby.
yeah. One thing they've also done is there's a line called Jurassic Park 93. It's available at Target, and they're kind of reimagining the 1993 toy line as if it were like being done now, and just doing wild colors, giving some of these figures like weird accessories. Like there's Dr. Malcolm with a paraglider, just like random weird things. Like it's ridiculous, like the gun that Dr. Grant has there, but they're thinking about the 1993 line and how those figures came with wild things as well. And that's the new Red Rex that Mattel's released. It's still in stores. It's been in stores now for a while, but it's quite great. And just kind of going back to the old one right there.
I mean, I think the older one still looks really good.
Yeah, it is. Nothing beats the Red Rex. It's probably one of my favorite toys like ever. But yeah, plenty of Jurassic. Another vehicle right there. There's just isn't so much, and it takes up a lot of my display space. These are Camp Cretaceous. This is the cartoon that was on Netflix. Now there's Chaos Theory, which is the new cartoon. But those figures are a lot of fun. I really like those characters. And then I think from here it goes. This isn't even on display anymore. Well, it kind of is, but not to the same extent. But this was just kind of like some random stuff that I had that didn't really fit anywhere else. I just kind of got all thrown into this little setup right here.
I mean, you got some notable names in there. Looks like Marty McFly in the back, Jack Sparrow, Negan.
Yeah.
Is that Daenerys with the
Mm-hmm.
dragon?
Yep.
Okay. And Olaf, of course.
Yeah. That Jack Sparrow is really cool. That's an SH Figure Arts release. That's also an SH Figure Arts, that Michael Jackson figure. Yeah, the Elsa and Olaf are Figma. Those were released a while back. That's the NECA ET. Actually,
Iconic.
that reminds me. There's a few of those on there still, but they fell off, and I need to put them back up. They always do that. Things jump off the shelf. Batman, like the Tim Burton Batman is like my favorite. So,
Okay.
I have kind of like the newer, that's the McFarlane Batmobile, which I'm not a big McFarlane fan, as far as that company goes, but um they're the only one that are doing like Tim Burton Batman stuff. So it's kind of like, okay, well,
Yep.
kind of have to get them because it's the original Tim Burton Batman. But yeah, that Batmobile is 6-inch scale, so it's really big.
That looks
Um,
huge.
yeah, and then I have the Sky Striker. That was a Hasleper GI Joe. I don't know anything about GI Joe. I've never collected GI Joe, but when I saw that, I was like, that is cool, and I really wanted to have it.
It is a dope looking piece. I don't know too. I've watched the movies, like the recent ones, but that's about it. But I mean, that's a sick looking ship.
Yeah, to me as a kid, like I just wasn't interested in that because you know there's these mutant turtles that fight other mutants. There's these guys that dress up in jumpsuits and go bust ghosts. There's these big dinosaurs. There's like these Star Wars things, and then there's these random like dudes in like military gear. And to me, that just wasn't appealing. Like, I wanted to have
Yeah.
all the other fun stuff. So, but yeah, Batman is my favorite comic book character. So, favorite superhero. So I do have more Batman than anything else, but I have a few other things too, Marvel Legends and stuff. Um,
Oh,
these
wow.
are 4-inch scale figures. Let's see. So these aren't Jurassic, but these are made by a guy named David Silva. He has a company called a Creative Beast Studio, and he did a Kickstarter for those raptors, scientifically accurate feathered raptors. These are Funko reaction Jaws figures, which I wish I would have bought another set of them to keep on package, because the packaging was really cool for one, but two, like they're very much in demand. Like they're very expensive to go back and do that now.
Yep. That's pretty cool.
Just
Some
a
Harry
touch
Potter.
of Harry Potter in the collection. I got the ones. And I have, a few of the SH figures. I also have Snape, but he's not on display because he's a little too tall. Like the kids, they fit in there perfectly, but
Yeah.
Snape was a little too tall unless I put him sitting down in there, which I might do later.
Do you have a favorite like house?
Gryffindor.
Yep.
That's where I got sorted into, and I just kind of stuck with it. So,
Nice.
yeah, a little bit more Batman. These are the Mayfax figures, Medicom Mayfax. And they do a really good job too.
Those have to be like newer, or at least from like some of the newer Batman projects, because that looks like the
Yeah,
Bane, and then I forget who played the Catwoman that you have in the back.
Anne Hathaway, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, these are newer. These are, I think, they started this line like in 27. No, actually, it started like in 2013, I think. 13, I want to say. But those early figures weren't that great, and then they got better and better. These are all SH Figure Arts figures right here.
Very detailed.
Yeah,
I loved
they
her
do.
as Harley Quinn.
Yeah, awesome. Figures are really nice too. Um, and then I think next to that, there's the newer Batman right there. That's SH Figure Arts figure, I believe, or is that the Mayfax? I think that's the Figure Arts one. And then I got the Batmobile, which they're just re-releasing it under McFarlane. But before that, it used to be DC Direct was the company doing these. And they did Batman the Animated Series, which is one of the greatest. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that one, but it's one of the greatest like animated series of
Mhm.
all time. Um,
Those look amazing. They look like they jumped, like, right out of the TV. That is
yeah,
crazy.
they're a lot of fun. They're really cool. The only issue is they don't stand very well, like they fall over. But
Yeah.
that's why I have these two sitting down because they're the biggest culprits when it comes to like falling. And I think they're just re-releasing this Bat Cycle 2 under McFarlane instead of DC Direct. But yeah, these are the original releases there. What do I have there? Just a little small Batmobile tumbler
Nice.
down there on the bottom, and this kind of gets into the very end of the video right here. So trying to get just right. Yeah, so this is a kind of thing I have off in the corner, just some random stuff. And I need to update it a little bit, but yeah, it's kind of just I have like more than what's here of these collections, just there's nowhere to put it really. But this is a really nice statue. This was made by was it three? I forget what company. Honestly, I forgot what company made this statue, but it's really nice. And I got Julie Newmar Catwoman is amazing. As is Eartha Kitt. So I have both of them, both of their figures there. But Julie Newmar, I met her actually by chance, like Carrie Fisher,
Oh, wow.
in LA. I was just walking around a neighborhood up there, and I bumped into her and I started a conversation with her, and she's just like you would imagine, just very, very, a lot of fun, very, very, very strong personality. Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, no, that's fun. And I think after that, it jumps into Indiana Jones. That's some of the newer stuff. I do have the 3 3/4 inch that were done back in 2008, 2009, but none of it is on display. None of them are even open. They're still in package. It just, I
Oh, wow.
haven't found a space for them yet.
Yep.
Um, I got some Dragon Ball. It's all Goku stuff. I don't have any other character. But I have like a lot of several of the Goku figures that Bandai Tamashii Nations have put out. And it's just fun. It's a fun series, and just like the colors, like, I love anything that like grabs my attention, and these definitely stand out.
Yeah, they definitely do. And you got some Power Rangers too, I think I saw.
Yeah. I have some Marvel here, Spider-Man. And I have way more Marvel Legends than this. It's just this is what's on display. But yeah, and then I do have some of the Power Rangers here. These aren't the latest remastered ones. I do have those, and I need to switch them out. But these are the Lightning Collection.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that basically right there ends that collection video.
Yeah, that was very impressive. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
thank you. And I wish I could display everything, but the reality is that I can't. I mean, I have a lot of the Black Series helmets. I have lightsabers. I have so many other things. But I rotate my displays or to mix it up. But maybe one day I'll have like a museum somewhere where I can display everything. But until then, I kind of have to work with, like we were saying earlier, work with the space that we have.
That's the thing that I tell, like, or at least I kind of like try to preach about collecting is it's not just like getting the items, it's about how you display it, it's about rotating it, adding the lights if you want to do dioramas. Like there's a whole other side to collecting that I think people don't
Yeah.
acknowledge sometimes. So I always think it's cool when people have like dioramas or even like real like setups like you have that are very like as close to movie accurate as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I have two final questions. My
Okay.
second to last is what is your this might be hard, but what is your favorite piece in your collection?
That is hard. I don't know that I could pick one. What I would say is if goodness forbids whatever happened, but if like there was like an earthquake or a fire or something, I would grab the Red Rex for my grandma.
Okay.
I'd probably grab the Hot Toys Princess Leia. And I would probably grab the sail barge, I would say.
Okay. That's a good diverse piece grab. And then my last question is, since this is a collecting based podcast and you are clearly a very experienced and well rounded collector, is if you could give any one piece to other collector, or any like one piece of advice to other collectors out there, what would it be?
To collectors, yes. I would say, I mean, it sounds very simplistic, but I would say, collect what makes you happy. Um, if it's not bringing you joy anymore, um, then, there's plenty of other hobbies to have. There's plenty of things to do outside of collecting. But collecting is, I think we collect, at least I collect because, I'm inspired by some of these films, some of these TV shows, and there's a lot of nostalgia is a big part of it. Like the real Ghostbusters or the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like I go back and watch those now, and I'm like, they're not that great, but at the time, it was about having the world building of the toys. So it's kind of a balance between the two. Um, but if it's not making you happy, if it's something that it just doesn't spark joy or creativity or imagination, then don't collect it. Just collect what makes you happy, what you something you can look to your shelf and see, and gives you a smile, makes you feel good. Um, but also, I would say collect within your means because it's easy to go overboard. Um, you know, I think budgeting is important. Managing your space is important because you don't want your house to be overtaken by toys and stuff. Um, Especially if you share your home with other folks that may not have the same you know passion that you have. But make sure you're having fun because this isn't there's far more there's very important things in the world that are genuinely important and critical and necessary and essential. But collecting is a hobby. It's something we do because it makes us feel happy, right? So if it's not making you feel happy, do something else, but definitely collect those things that give you joy.
Okay, good. That's a great piece of advice. And before we hop off, I appreciate you coming on. And can you let people know one more time where they can find you and if you have anything upcoming that you want them to be on the lookout for?
Absolutely. So yeah, no, firstly, thank you again for having me on here. It's been a blast. I I'm on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even have a TikTok I don't do a whole lot with, but it's all Victoria's Cantina. If you just search that, I'll come up. Instagram's what I use more than anything else, though. YouTube, of course, that's kind of like the base of everything I do, right? So I am on YouTube, Victoria's Cantina. We have the live stream pretty much every Friday night, sometimes on Saturdays too. And that's my favorite thing to do is to live stream. It's always fun and entertaining. I hope. I hope I'm not torturing anybody too much. And yeah, I've got videos that I'm working on all the time. So there is more coming. There's the one I mentioned with my dad, the Batman focused thing, and then I have some more vintage collection videos coming in July. So right now I'm really focused on the HasLab. So that's kind of the bulk of my live streaming is talking about the HasLab and hoping that works out. Um, but yeah, I hope that anybody that is interested in giving us a look comes away feeling welcome because that's the most important thing to me is that everybody feels welcome and included and a part of a community that collectors that collecting isn't something everybody does, but those who want to come at least do anything that VC does feels like they can come no matter what level of collector you are, no matter how much you are into whatever franchise it is, that you can feel that you can take something out of that and hopefully it brightens your day just a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to leave all your links down in the description so people can find you easy. So make sure to go check out her live streams, her videos, give her a subscribe and some likes. That would be greatly appreciated. And I will see everybody next Thursday.